Hi, I'm Phil,
And I'm John.
and this is Baked Beans and Butterflies, which is a bit of an odd name for any video and any account, but we'll get to that in a minute. Um, so this is our first video, first of many. We've got loads that we're thinking about doing, but broadly, we adopted two children in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, and this is sort of a bit of a story, a bit of therapy for us, just talking to a screen, and an opportunity to maybe help a few people along the way with what we've experienced.
We're planning on going right the way back to the very beginning when the thought of adoption was just a little seed in our heads, and what was going through our minds, what was our reservations, what was our worries, could we do it, couldn't we do it. So hopefully by sharing our story it will help a few of you out there that are thinking of joining us in the world of being adoptive parents.
And this comes 5 years after our children moved in. So we adopted siblings, as I said, in 2020. So there's a lot that's happened historically, and there's a lot that's happened as we've been in the last few years. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of chronological order going on some of this stuff. But we thought it was important to share why we called it what we've called it.
So, baked beans and butterflies is quite an unusual name, as you were saying, but it stems from our first encounter with who were to be our children. We met them at an event which is hosted by the adoption agency who we went through, where you have lots of other prospective adoptive parents as well as adoptive children. And we was going there initially to view, to put it in crude terms, to other children.
Yeah, and it was a really unnerving experience because we were with lots of prospective adopters that we'd seen in our courses, our prep courses and things. So we got to know quite a few of them, and we were all sort of waiting in this room to go in and start meeting the children, and then you hear all the children start to be in the room. And then we went in, and as John said, we'd found this boy and girl who we thought we were interested in, and we tried to spend some time with them. I was making some cookies with one of them, and things just weren't clicking at all, were they?
It it didn't feel right. It's really hard to explain. There was just no
Connection.
connection. There was
Yeah.
nothing. There was no emotion. It just felt very fake, if that's the right word to use. It didn't feel natural. You know, like we've been on pace courses, so we was using lots of pace techniques. Oh, that's a really good yellow bus you've just drawn, but it just didn't feel natural. And before we knew it, we was in a room full of allied professionals and the foster carers, and we was having this meeting about these two children, and suddenly it was just like, oh my god,
Didn't wasn't right, was it?
no.
And you sort of told that you know when things are right, and so we sort of left that room and the meeting, and it was a little bit weird because it was sort of a side meeting in a it was in a sensory room, wasn't it? And
Mm.
so we'd had a conversation, and we said we weren't sure, and then we went back into the place where all of the kids were, and I spotted this.
We spoke to the foster dad. Don't you remember?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that happened after we'd met these or after, but gone.
Okay, because we wasn't getting much from the foster mother. Foster parents are really important through your adoption journey when you when you get matched with children, and we wasn't getting anything from the foster mother, but the foster father, thank thank heavens, he was very open and very blasé. He came out, yeah, he's been excluded from three nursery schools, and this child is four. And then the child picks up this wooden train and starts smashing a table. And it was then we thought, no. And I went outside because I just needed to clear my head because things was too much for me. And then
Yeah, so I was walking around and I saw this little boy in the corner, and there was this little like shop area that was set up, and so I just started talking to him. I was sort of crouched down and playing, and he said he wanted to sell me some beans, baked beans, and I said, "So how much are the beans?" And he said, 0 pence to me. And so we were having a little laugh and giggle and stuff. And then John came along, and I said, "Are you going to sell any to John?" And he looked at me and smiled, and he went, "Yes." And then John said, "Can I have some beans?" And with his beaming smile, he looked up at John and said, "That'll be 1 million pence, please."
And I turned around to him and said, "Really?" And he was just like, "Yeah." And he had just such this innocent smile on his face that it was the connection was immediate, because we'd previously seen their photos in Linkmaker, and we'll in later episodes we'll talk about Linkmaker. And I dismissed them. I was just like, no, no, no. But when I saw him smile and when I saw him laugh, there was just something. And then out of nowhere, the blonde bombshell come running over with a little butterfly on her cheek, wanting to show her butterfly to her brother.
So there you've got the butterfly.
Yeah.
So I was being sold the beans, and then the butterfly came running over and was so proud of this on her face and calling his name and wanted to share it and wanted to show it. And so that was our like first interaction, and we talked a lot with their foster carers, and their independent reviewing officer was there as well, and we talked a lot with them, and we got to understand them a bit more and got to know a bit more and spent a lot of time with them. But that was our first encounter.
And then we went out into the car park, physically drained, emotionally drained, exhausted. And we sat in the car and we looked at each other and we just went, they are the two.
And little did we know it was still going to be really complicated, because that was in the March, just after we'd got back from our last holiday with our children, and then it wasn't until the August that they finally moved in and everything was sorted. But that was, as I say, that was our first encounter. It's something that we talk about now with the kids quite often, and they're really proud of it, and they like to share that story as well now. But yeah, that's it.
Well,
Baked
that,
beans and
yeah.
butterflies.
So hopefully you will follow us and listen to our journey. Hopefully understand more about what we as adoptive parents have to go through, because the frustrating thing is people that have parented children think they understand the journey, the process, and what it's like being an adoptive parent. Completely, completely different. Completely different.
And we've had massive highs and we've had really bad lows. So we want to be balanced. We want to let everybody know about the good times, but also how we've navigated some of the difficult ones as well. So
So hopefully we'll see you when you tune in.